Good afternoon, everyone. Maybe I'll just start with a couple of quick statements, and then I'll take all your questions. But I guess probably the biggest kind of factor in this is just what a year it's been. You know, we started the AGM last year, or at the AGM last year, by announcing a very exciting and ambitious strategic plan for the club, and we were ready to go. And you know, not even a month later, the pandemic hits and the world goes upside down, and we are in a very challenging situation, not only from a public health perspective, but certainly from a financial perspective, and not only for the club, but all the clubs in Scotland and around the world, as well as businesses around the world. So it was really a little bit of a kind of turn of the omelet type thing, and just the world went upside down very, very quickly after a very exciting and very positive AGM last year. You know, I would have to say that the club, generally speaking, addressed this, I think, with three kind of primary focuses. One was just making sure that our staff and the team, everybody was as protected as we possibly could from a health perspective. The second part that I think is very important, and I think we did reasonably well, was address the financial well-being of the club to make sure that we, you know, just kind of suffered as little as possible, but we were not going to avoid some suffering. And last but not least, kind of trimming the operation to the core, which at the end of the day for us it was really the first team, and with the expectation that would come back first, although it took probably a little bit longer than we anticipated to get back to football. Generally speaking, I would say that the club managed reasonably well. Some things perhaps in retrospect we could have done a little bit faster or made some additional moves, but generally speaking, I think the club came through fairly well, and I am hopeful that we'll be on the front foot and ready to resume the actions and initiatives that we had around the strategic plan once things get back to normal. So with that, I'll just take your questions, and happy to hopefully answer them correctly and as richly as you deserve.
You speak about the strategic plan there, Ron, and obviously it had to change, but is it maybe a year behind schedule now, or is the financial implications of this pandemic mean that it's even further behind? You know, how long will it take you to catch up to where you were this time last year?
You know, we're finalizing some plans for this year. I don't think, well, we are definitely a year behind, just because of the calendar, but I think we can pick up fairly quickly on some of the initiatives that we had already planned. We are in the middle of budget discussions for next season, including some of the capital expenses and investments that we were hoping to make last year, which obviously we postponed, other than the PA system, which we already installed at Easter Road. So we're revisiting all that right now. I hope that we can accelerate, you know, and maybe make up for lost time, but we are certainly running a little bit behind. And just hopeful that we can get back as quickly as possible to our plan. And I just would add that pretty much I've looked at the plan several times, you know, in the last year and discussed it with the leadership and everyone else. I mean, I think all the items that we had in that plan are still very germane to where we want to go as a club, and so I think we're going to continue on that plan.
Because there was a lot of emphasis on the player budget and how, you know, you were hoping up 50%, and by I think 2023 it was going to be almost double what it is now. Is that, or what it was a year ago, is that still the plan? Are those sort of numbers still in effect?
You know, yes. I mean, perhaps we're running a little bit behind, so it would be 2023 would be 3 years from 2020. So I would hope that we can do better. But you know, I think if we can double the budget by 2023, that would be really, really good. But even if we don't get to doubling it, we can up it substantially. That will be good, and we're planning to hopefully do that for this season. It will be an increase for sure. But, you know, a lot will depend on when we get back to fans in the stadium, and you know, because ultimately that's going to fuel whatever we do. So we have to be, I think, somewhat cautious into how we go into spending. But we're projecting, you know, we're being conservative, I think, in our assumptions that we're going to have full stadiums, or the ability to have full stadiums sometime early part of next year. Hopefully it'll be earlier than that, But our planning is, at the very latest, hopefully that will be the very latest, it would be at the beginning of 2022. So let's see what happens.
I mean, if you had feedback from the Joint Response Committee or from the government in terms of numbers getting back into the stadium, because just letting a handful of fans back in isn't going to address the financial issues, is it? It's going to be a problem still.
No. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Maury. I mean, we're involved in all the Joint Response Group conversations, and certainly, I mean, I think everybody wants to get back to normality as quickly as possible, but I don't anticipate that it's going to happen at the beginning of the season. Hopefully, if the vaccination program keeps moving at a good clip, and we can in a way kind of restrict the spread of the virus and variants and things like that, then I would hope that maybe at the beginning of September, October, we're back to normality. But that would be, I think, on the optimistic side.
Ron, Jack Ross has developed a squad of very good playing assets, and one of the most prized assets is Josh Doig. How do you react to the fact that Brendan Rodgers, among other top English Premier League managers, are now scouting Doig, and how highly do you rate the kid? I
think he's been terrific. I mean, I love him. I love his energy. He's got some great attributes as a player, great speed, a terrific shot. If he ever puts it in, it's going to be a beautiful thing. And he's learning. I think this 1 year where he's had a lot of playing time, he has grown and matured. Every game, he's a little bit better and he's more confident and comfortable. I think he's a terrific young man and a great player. So I'm excited that Brendan Rodgers is interested in him. And obviously, we have to balance the idea of having a competitive team with also not getting in the way of progress, because for a kid like Josh, the ability to play in a Leicester City or something like that is something that we need to be behind and encourage. So we need to find the right balance, and it's got to be at the right time for everyone. Let's see what happens. It's only his first year, so let's see.
I think your message to the bigger clubs, though, would be that he wouldn't be going cheaply if he was to go anywhere.
I hope not. You can help me negotiate there, Derek. We can sit down and negotiate the best price that we can get. That'd be great. No, he won't, because I don't think we should undersell our players. I mean, Josh is a great player, and clubs should be willing to pay. I mean, nobody's trying to be. We're trying to be reasonable, but we don't want to undersell our assets, as a club. But we need to find the right balance between what's good for the club and what's good for Josh. One of the things that we talked about in last year's AGM, and certainly as a club, is the idea of being a players' club. So we are very much conscious of doing the right thing by the players. We want players to think of Hibs as a club that really has them first and foremost in mind in terms of their footballing career.
Ron, David, BBC here. Sorry, Ron. I was going to say, did the club prove the aspects of sticking to valuations and assets during the January transfer window, when obviously there was quite intense interest in Kevin Nisbet and also a little bit in Ryan Porteous, but clearly, they stuck to the guns on what you felt was the appropriate valuation for those players at this stage in their career?
Yeah, I think it was a question of timing and valuation and where the club was. We need to make these decisions. They were not easy because, obviously, again, both of them want to grow and compete at the highest level. And they'll have opportunities. I'm 100% sure of that. The timing wasn't right. And I think they both agreed to that. And so, it's great to see Kevin has come back and really contributed beautifully to the club. He's a terrific player, and the fact that he got his first cap is fantastic for him and for Hibs. It's another feather in our cap to have somebody like Kevin play for the national team. And I think hopefully he will continue to do well and be in a better position to move on when the time is right. Again, it's a tricky. I guess what we're trying to do and find is the right balance between being competitive and, if the opportunity presents itself, and be able to move some of our players on to a higher level of football. But it's got to be, the timing's got to be right, and it's got to be the right move. So it's a tricky one. It's a little bit of a finesse. I don't think there's But I wouldn't consider us just as a selling club. Somebody offers and we're selling. I don't think so. I think we have I think a mission to be very competitive as we possibly can be.
Would you expect one of those to leave in the summer, Ron? Do you think would that be a realistic guess?
What was that, Paul? Sorry, I missed the first part.
Would you expect at least one of those guys to leave in the summer, perhaps, given the financial climate and so on?
That could be a possibility. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me. And we're thinking about those possibilities and planning accordingly. But yes, I think that maybe one, or I don't anticipate that more than one, perhaps at the outside too. But I think one perhaps could have an opportunity to move this summer.
You have a very good manager, Ron. Do you think he's currently got you in course to be Scottish football's third force?
Well, I mean, I have to say, I think Jack has done a fantastic job. Really, he's a very good manager. He prepares the team. He's got a great environment in the locker room. He's a very thoughtful manager, and I think there's a logic and a reason to all the things that he does. Football is unpredictable, as we all know. It can be very cruel at times, and we certainly have had some disappointments, but we've also had a very consistent year. The fact that we've been in 3 semifinals in a row, that's great. That's an accomplishment. And the fact that we've been sitting near the top of the table pretty much all year is also fantastic. So Jack is a very steady steward of the squad, and I think hopefully he feels that the club has been supportive, and which I think he does, and we're going to continue to build on that.
Ron, where are Hibs just now with regards to your youth setup? And does the success of somebody like Josh Doig show the importance of that to Hibs, the importance of producing your own players?
I think we're committed to doing that. I guess the issue for us, Matthew, is what's the right structure, what's the right model for us to build on. We are actually in the middle of some task forces that we did them when we put the strategic plan. We did it on the business side of the club. So we looked at hospitality, CapEx, ticketing, all the business aspects. And we're in the middle of task forces where we're looking at best practices and organizational structure and kind of setting some goals and parameters for our football department. So the task forces include the first team, recruiting and player transactions, the development team, the academy, women's football, HTC, which is is an it's not underutilized, that's not the right word, but it's an asset that can be even further improved. So that's another area. And then all the support services for our football programs, whether it's nutrition and health and fitness, strength training, sports psychology, et cetera. All those kinds of things are under review right now, so that we put together a plan around football. And the academy, sits kind of smack in the middle of that. So we're looking at best practices, what's the kind of structure that we want to have, and really what's the mission of the academy? What are we trying to accomplish for that?
Do you welcome, Ron, the imminent return of Hearts to the top flight?
I do. Absolutely. It's good for football. It's good for Edinburgh, as long as we win the derby. That's the important thing. But yes, I think it's good. They're a big club, and they deserve to be, and they should be in the Premiership. So it'll be great to have them back.
Ron, how important is European qualification and potentially getting into the group stage of either the Europa League or the Conference League in terms of growing the business, but also trying to remain or keep going as the third force? Because I think it's 2005 the last time Hibs finished third in the top flight. And is that going to be key now to growing revenue, because it's maybe revenue you can get that you can't get domestically?
I agree with you. Look, I think these are opportunities like this in football don't present themselves, as readily as you would hope. And I think we just need to take advantage of the possibility of being in Europe. If we drop into the group stage, we have to finish third. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have to finish the job in front of us. And obviously the cup is also very important, because that third spot is kind of reserved for the cup winner. So we need to we need to make sure that that falls our way. But being in the group stage of any European competition is a financial windfall for the club. And, you know, strategically for Hibs, I think our number one goal is to increase our revenue substantially, because I think that's going to most consistently allow us to compete at the top of the table. So being in Europe is an important thing. And as you know, part of our goals was to, you know, compete in the top four of the Premiership and the Cups and be in Europe every year. So I am hopeful, you know, it's not going to happen every year, but I'm hopeful that we can consistently be in Europe, which I think changes the profile of the club, both from a brand perspective and an image perspective, but financially as well.
What does that do then in terms of when you have to make cutbacks or have to make tough decisions to making sure that you retain that ambition? And has that been in your thinking in terms of maybe not selling players right away, but you're speculating in a way to accumulate?
You know what? That's exactly the point I'm trying to make is the finesse, right? We want to stay competitive. If we make Europe and we know that we're going to be playing, there's a difference, right? If we know, let's say we do finish in third, we complete, then we know that we're going to have Europe all fall. We're going to be playing in Europe until December. There are a couple of issues that we've had already some conversations with Jack around this, that we need to keep some of our better players, and we perhaps need to add a little bit to our staff because they're going to be playing many, many more games. So that's an important consideration. I think we want to be as competitive as we possibly can. That's number one. So I don't think, you know, we're going to shortchange our ability to compete to do a little bit of business. Now you'll have to, you know, it's a judgment call and it's a little bit of a finesse, and those are difficult decisions always. But we'll take a look when the time comes. But priority number one, compete.
Ron, how big an achievement do you think third place would be, given the the cutbacks you've had to make this season?
I think it's a great achievement, to be honest with you. It's been consistent, and we've gone through ups and downs throughout the season, but it's a great achievement. We've done a couple of things from last year, and intentionally. So I don't want you to think that this was just a fluke. Our starting lineup last year was significantly old. The average age of the starting 11 was 28 and a half years old. We in our opinion, that was too old. I'm a little older myself, so I don't want you to think that. So we just wanted to reduce the size. We brought it down to 26 and a half right now. And we have a more balanced squad, a younger squad, more balanced. So we've done some work to really kind of fill out the right spots. And I think that the squad is in a very, very good place. We have some homework to do to continue to improve it. But I think Jack and Graham have done a really good job in kind of filling the right holes and bringing the right kind of a caliber player to the club.
Ron, David, BC here. How do you do? I'm just wondering, 1.4 million losses you announced. Given the context of the pandemic, do you think that's not too bad? And what were the main factors in you keeping the losses down? Did you have business interruption insurance, for example?
Yeah, no, we're in the process. We are in the process of that. I think actually we have a very good insurance policy, but getting money out of the insurance company is a little trickier than you would think. But I think we have a very good claim. So my feeling is that we're going to be reimbursed for a significant amount of our losses. But that's, it's trickling in. We actually got an initial payment maybe 10 days ago, but it's a fraction, a tiny sliver of our claim. So, I mean, obviously operating the club without any revenues on game day revenues is a difficult thing. So I think we were fairly good at streamlining and kind of right-sizing the club as quickly as possible. Perhaps we could have done it a little bit earlier. In hindsight, I would say yes, but we thought that football was going to come in just a couple of months and we were going to be back to football. And it's been a year since nobody's back to anything, and it's been over a year. But generally speaking, is cutting the operating costs is what we did. We reduced, again, we focused on the core business. What do we need to do to keep the first team in the right place? We even reduced that by putting players out on loan and terminating contracts. And so we even reduced the size of our our first team, which, you know, what I was saying a little bit earlier. So we lowered the size, we improved the size of our squad. It's a younger squad, and it's at a significantly reduced budget. So I think we were able to do many things to position ourselves. But I think, to answer your question, 1.4 on a net basis is not too bad. The loss that we had on an EBITDA basis of 250, I think, you know, is not really too bad under the circumstances. So,
and are you still seeking to attract further investment, and are you close to getting any of that?
We're not really looking for any investment. I think what we're looking to do is explore ways in which we can, you know, last year at this time at the AGM, we were sitting probably with 6 million, we had zero debt and sitting with £6 million in the bank, which is a great position to get us launched into our strategic plan, etc. You know, as of December, we were sitting with let me see what I have it written down here, 2.6 million. So we went through a whole bunch of money, and you know, we've been able to recoup some of that. So we probably have a little over almost 3.5 million right now, 3.3, something like that. You know, our goal is going to be to replenish that as quickly as we possibly can. We have a season ticket campaign coming up, which is critical to kind of the foundational piece of our business. So I think we don't really need investment, and I don't see any point in having investment right now, because I think the club is going to be, hopefully, at the end of this fiscal year in June, we will be in a good financial place to manage and be prepared to carry on with our plan.
Ross,
Third in the Premiership at the moment, Ron. Do you have for the club loftier ambitions than that?
I don't think we ever should not have more ambition. So as a club, we always will have more ambition. But let's get one step at a time. You know, we have to go one step at a time. So I think that finishing third is an accomplishment for sure. It's fantastic. Again, it's not in the bag, so let's not, you know, we need to finish the job. But if we do finish third, major accomplishment. Again, the cup performances over the last year and a half, certainly since I've been at the club, have been, you know, fantastic. So we're very grateful for that and proud of that. But if we can finish in the top two, why not? That's what we would want to do. We don't want to ever not have ambition.
Ron, is the pandemic, Ron, ever? Carry on, sorry.
I was going to say, Ron, when do you expect a new chief executive to be on board? You've gone a few months now without one. Is there something imminent?
You know, we're in the process. I would say we're in the final stages of our search. And I don't want to predict anything, but I would think that sometime within the next 30 days, we should be able to make an appointment. But, you know, we're still interviewing, and although we've already gone through, we have a terrific number of applicants, over 100 applicants and interested parties. So it's you know, it's a fantastic club, as you know, and it's a wonderful position for somebody in football. So you know, we're being very meticulous about it, and you know, excited about the prospects of bringing somebody who can help the club advance.
Ron, do you feel that you owe anything to the fans that have supported the club throughout this, you know, really tough year? And what's your message to all supporters going forward, especially with season ticket renewals coming up?
Well, I mean, they are the reason we've been able to do what we're doing is entirely due to our supporters. You know, the 11,000 season ticket holders in a year when nobody knew if they could ever come to Easter Road. And in fact, they have not been able to come to Easter Road, and they will not be able to come to Easter Road. So I think our gratitude is enormous to the supporters, because without them, we would not be sitting in third place. We would not be competing at the level we're competing. We would not be, you know, getting a Kevin Nisbet at the club, or bringing in a McGuinness, a Kyle McGuinness. Those kinds of initiatives can only happen if you have the fans behind you. You know, one of the messages that we've had as a club from day one is that we're one team, one club. Everybody at the club contributes, starting with the supporters. We need everybody to contribute. It's, you know, I use this in the talks when we have, you know, somebody like Lynn, for example, at the ticket office is just as important as Kevin Nisbet to our success. Everybody, somebody like William, who helps all the hospitality, make sure that our guests are well taken care of, is just as important as Ophir Marciano. They all contribute to the success of Hibs, and our supporters are the foundational piece of that. So we always have to keep that in mind. They are first and foremost the backbone, the foundation on which the club is built. We can never.
Has the pandemic, Ron, ever made you regret getting involved at Hibs, or contrastingly, has it actually made you even more determined to achieve what you want to?
Yeah, I would say the latter. It's funny, but I actually, there was a great, which David Forsyth forwarded to me many moons ago at the beginning of the pandemic. Some fan wrote, of all the times to make an investment in football, this was the worst time you could ever, and said, Ron Gordon invested in Hibs at the worst possible time. But it almost brought me to tears, because he said, stick with it, Ron. If you can, take us through this, you're going to be a very good chairman for the club. And I was almost kind of very emotional about that tweet or Instagram post. And I honestly feel there's not been one nanosecond where I said, this is, oh, geez, what bad luck, or why did I get into this? Not at all. And I'm very determined to do everything I can to take the club to the next level. And it's just a fantastic club waiting for the opportunity to do more.
When you talk about the bank balance and how that's obviously been affected by the pandemic, I guess in a way that kind of reinforces your commitment to the football side of things, because you could easily have sold Kevin Nisbet in January and recouped that money that you have lost. I suppose that sends a message to the fans as well. I think so. I mean, I think they know that we want to compete, and we want to play very good football and be at the top of the table. We want to do things, and that's going to take a little bit of time. You don't get from A to Z without the process and the time. But we want to build an organization that can be and sustainably be at the top of Scottish football. That's the key here, is sustain. We have to be able to, we don't want to be going up and down. All clubs go up and down. They all go through stages and periods, right? But I'd like Hibs to build an organization and a structure where being at the top of the table is the norm.